I remember when I got on this path, I was about 14. I'd seen some strange dreams. Wake up in the middle of the night, but not really awake, dreaming, but not knowing that I'm dreaming. Start floating around the room. Suddenly a big fear comes into my heart. Don't know why, but I had to get out of there. And that panic drove me. It drove me to want to scream. And I try to scream. No words coming out of my throat. I don't know that I'm dreaming, right? And the fact that no words are coming out of my throat makes me panic more. And I try and I try and I try and I push those words out. And I wake up. The fuck was that? That's the experience that started it. You know, being raised a Jew in the Hebrew tradition, the family sent me to religious schools, and all the contradictions there led me to question what's God and the meaning of life and all that. But what put me onto the so-called spiritual path is these experiences that my parents couldn't make heads or tails of, and my friends had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I had no recourse but to go to a bookstore, a New Age spiritual bookstore, and find out. Then I found terms like lucid dreaming and parapsychology and OBEs, out-of-body experiences, or astral projection. And that shit was interesting. And that began a very, very long journey on my spiritual mission. Well, here I am, 49 years old, and it's been a good ride. I've been all over the world, Israel and Japan and India, the Himalayas. I've talked to sages and sat with kings and met Mother Teresa, and a lot of people helped me along the way. A lot of people helped me to get to where I am today, and that's clear. I have some idea of what's going on now. But, you know, surfing around the Facebook spiritual communities, I don't often see 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, teenagers. I would have been up in arms if somebody called me a kid at that age. Because isn't that the age when you know you're immortal? When you know you're a super being? Someplace down in your gut, you've got an idea that life is so much more than high school. Life is so much more than what they're telling us. And it's been my mission for a long time, not just to find the answers for myself, but to help other people find them too. Because, you know, when I was 16 or something, and I started looking deeply into these topics, I found so much and I understood so much about the conscious and subconscious connections and the potential that a human being has. I wanted to share it with the world. And I started writing a journal, and I started writing a book, and I started jotting down exactly what those nighttime experiences were and all the information that I was getting from all of these different awakened authors, people who had been on this path before me, people who had experienced this, and I wanted to share it with everybody. Well, that book hasn't been published yet. As a matter of fact, I went up into the Himalayas one day and I met this intense sage who I started having a conversation with, and that conversation lasted 20 years. The book has taken a totally different shape, and I will put it out one day. But getting back to the teenagers, I wanted to tell people like me that it's okay, that this is a real thing. And what I want to tell you today, if you're listening, because I don't see you around the spiritual communities in the groups, what I want to tell you today is, if you are one of those people that feel that panic grip your heart when you're doing this lucid dreaming, don't worry too much about it. The nervous system is not going to stop. When you're dreaming and you realize, hey, I'm awake, you know, your conscious faculties are still working. You're able to think, right? Get this one idea. I'm still breathing. My body is still working. It's still moving. Don't let that panic take over your mind and the fear take over your mind and push you into panic, because it's all downhill from there. Remember that you're still breathing. Take it light. Chill into the experience just a little bit. and it'll be a much, much easier ride. That's what I want to tell you today. The out-of-body experience, and it really can be an out-of-body experience. Your consciousness goes someplace. I remember I was talking to my daddy about this once upon a time, and we worked out a little experiment to see what was going on. I had him, or he wrote down on a piece of paper something, and he would hide it or put it on his dresser in his bedroom, and he'd close his bedroom door, and it would be up to me to get into the dream state and find out what was written on that piece of paper. And I did, and I don't know how I did it, but one night, I went into that dream, and it was a whole process. I'd wake up, I'd start floating around my room, I'd try to go to the door and open my own door, but my hands wouldn't get around the doorknob, and that's actually the trigger that prompted the panic. When I found out that my hands weren't touching the door, I'd be like, oh, fuck, what's going on? And I'd run back to my bed or fly back to my bed. But this realization that I could actually control things that were going on with me inside that dream let me calm down. When I realized that I was still breathing, that I wasn't going to die, that I could get back to my body anytime I wanted to, when I realized that, it gave me a whole new dimension of freedom. And I actually floated through the door, through the kitchen, through the living room, over to my daddy's room, and I read what was on that note. Told him the next morning, and we're like, whoa, what's that mean? We still didn't know what it meant. We had no idea. This is early 1980s. I mean, the whole thing of cosmic consciousness had just started floating from the hippie community through the self-help workshops and into various good books. But I was still young. I had only read, a few dozen books by that time. I hadn't really been around the block, but I did know this is something. I did know that I was not crazy, and I was absolutely sure that there were other people out there like me that needed this information. And so here I am today. I'm telling you, if you do happen to be surfing these groups, check it out. Control that fear. Put that fear down. Remember, you're still breathing. You will get back to the body. It will happen at some point. You just chill into it and explore the many dimensions of this wonderful mind.